Hi, I will present AMMIL, a methodology for creating MOOCs, flipped classrooms, or online courses. The creation of AMMIL started somehow in 2013 when we got the compromise to develop this MOOC for the Spanish platform Miriadax. We had to work very hard, much harder than expected, but when we could open with some delay the course on the platform on the middle of October, registration started to pour in. Lots of people started and lots of people finished. These numbers impacted us very much, and we decided to continue. We have offered 8 editions till now of this MOOC. We have opened other MOOCs. In these 8 editions have registered over 200,000 persons. This is a huge number. This is the most demanded course on this platform, on Miriadax, and probably the most demanded course in Spanish language worldwide. We have done also other MOOCs, and also we have reused the material for flipping our classrooms. When we started this MOOC, we were transforming the methodology of our internet computing course of the 3rd year of the telecom engineering graduate, where we were offering materials for self-learning. 80% of the material needed here was the same as the one we used in the course. So there was a very nice win-win strategy among both activities. AMMIL is therefore basically the set of guidelines and lessons learned we have consolidated into a methodology for improving the quality and effectiveness of self-learning material. Good materials make the learning process much easier, and this is what we aim at here. The basic rules we were given when we started our MOOC in Miriadax were these simple ones we have here from the methodological point of view. We had basically to record very short videos, we call them here micro lecture, between 3 and 12 minutes. We had to evaluate every micro lecture with some exercise whenever possible. And to structure this endless sequence of micro lectures, we had only modules to group them in several parts, which gave the structure of the course. So we had to think about how to break our usual 1-hour lecture in very small micro lectures, how to evaluate them, how to motivate the learner in this endless sequence of micro lectures. And well, this is basically what AMMIL deals with. Before going into the methodology, let's reflect about 3 questions which I think are important when one starts his first MOOC. The first one is which type of MOOC to perform. If you start, go for a very short one. They are called nano MOOCs for 1 week of work or less. That's what I would recommend you. We started with a 5 weeks MOOC, and this was too much. This was a nightmare for us. The topic of the MOOC also matters. You will choose probably one of the topics of your course, but you should be aware that the most successful MOOCs, according to the statistics of the platform, focus or center on lifelong learning. We focused on professionally demanded knowledges and capabilities like JavaScript programming. Good JavaScript programmers are requested in many job offers, and this is why probably our course was so successful. In long life learning, there are also leisure topics and many things, so choose one because it's much better that you use a topic that has a large potential for registration and where many people will participate. And finally, I would like to say that producing a MOOC is quite an effort, and so you should look for side objectives to get more benefits from your effort. We reused our self-learning materials in our flipped classroom. This is one very good way of reusing the effort you do, because the MOOC provides you a very nice environment where you see the necessity of self-learning materials, and there is a strong need which will oblige you to produce much better materials, much better than if you just produce them for the classroom. So this is, as we did, a win-win, a very good win-win process, which leads to very good material. A MOOC also connects you with a large community if it's successful, and this is also a very interesting thing, because, well, you can have much more impact in the internet because all this spreads to other social networks. You can also use it to connect those people to activities you are doing. You will have to do always within the terms of use of the platform, but it's usually possible if you don't use it as a marketing channel, just for announcing interesting technical activities. Well, after you have more or less clarified your strategy in these 3 points, then you must produce your MOOC, and that's when AMMIL comes in. AMMIL stands for Active Meaningful Microinductive Learning, and it's a methodology which we have validated on JavaScript programming courses using project-based learning. We have performed MOOCs, which where a very, very precisely defined learning workflow is defined by us, by the producers of the MOOC. And there it works very well, but those recommendations we think are also very useful in other type of MOOCs, like the CMOOCs, the connectivist MOOCs, or XMOOCs in other topics. If you apply this methodology and have interesting feedback or interesting suggestions, please let us know. We would be very much interested in having ideas and collaborations and inputs from other people applying this methodology. Let's go to the components. In order to understand, the best thing is going to the way in which you have to transform your lectures. A course is usually a set of lectures, 1 hour, which lead to an exam at the middle of the term, at the end, and you have to transform this into micro lectures, which are supported, which are recorded in videos. You have to put evaluations after ideally every video, but this is not possible. At the end you have finite time and you have to finish when you don't have more time. So, but try to put as many as possible. You group these micro activities of a video with an evaluation together into modules, put a more thorough evaluation at the end of the module, which evaluates all the activities performed in this module, and go to the next module and so on. And this is basically the structure which exists in every MOOC. In order to make this transformation successfully, which seems easy, but it's not so easy, at least this was our experience, we propose that you have to work with micro-objective. A micro-objective is the learning objective defined for each of those micro-lectures, for each of those micro-activities. What you would like the learner to learn when you, with the material you provide associated with this video and the material associated. So micro-objectives should focus, as micro-learning recommends, in one concept or element, or at least a very few of them which are very simple and which can be put reasonably together in such a small micro-activity. It is important that the micro-objectives can be evaluated, because if you choose a well-defined topic, it will be easy to evaluate, and then you will go to this structure without any problem. Therefore, each micro-objective is supported by a micro-activity which uses more or less the same materials as we use in the standard classroom for our lectures. It must explain and illustrate the concepts, the knowledge you want to transmit to them, and it must also make the learner practice and evaluate him with regard to the learning objective. This is usually performed with these 4 elements here. You have some slides, a short number, because you need to have a very short video, 4 to 6, maximum 10. It is good that you assign also a clear objective to each slide. Everything which doesn't contribute to the micro-objective should be thrown away from your slides and from your micro-activity. You must put there only the elements which lead to acquiring the knowledge associated with your micro-objective. This is a very good rule and has helped me, if applied rigorously, to really improve the slides very much. Once you have the slides, you go to the video, you record it. A video from 3 to 12 minutes is a very reasonable recommendation. Never go over 15. There exists a temptation, I know, and you will see, because it's much easier recording a long video for you than really split things in very small videos. You add also documentations, usually web pointers associated to the slides, and finally you go to an evaluation. These first 3 things is where you explain and illustrate everything what you want the learner to learn, and the evaluation is where you make him practice and you evaluate if the learner has acquired the knowledge. One element which acquires a much higher importance here is the example. The examples which you use to illustrate what you are trying to transmit to the learners. We have developed here a slightly different version of examples. We call them micro examples, which are realistic examples of minimum complexity which illustrate the micro objective, but only the micro objective. This is the difference. When we use examples in the classroom or in our lectures, these examples will usually illustrate many micro objectives when you have partitioned them in such small units. So you should split also your example into a small micro example which are realistic, have the minimum complexity, fit in one slide because you cannot present very large examples, and which illustrate only the micro objective. So each micro activity must have at least one or more micro example. This is hard to do because micro example need a lot of effort to be developed, proper micro example. We recommend that you work first in the micro objectives, as we have told in the previous slide, then go to the micro examples, and only after you have those two things clearly defined, then you go for the slides and evaluations. Another element which acquires also a large importance here is evaluations. Evaluations in our context are also learning activities. You cannot design them as usually, as filters which say who has acquired the knowledge and who not. They must be used to consolidate and to lead to a better understanding in the learners of the topic you are trying to explain. You have tests which are mainly for micro activities. A test should cover a micro objective exhaustively. I was not very confident in the test when I started creating my first MOOC, but I have got extremely fond of tests after I've seen the power which they have in the MOOC. A test must cover everything about what you have explained. All the use cases, all the interesting applications, whatever, the good, the bad ones, all the implications of concept theory, whatever you think can be somehow explicited with a response, with a particular test, put it on the test. So I put usually test, which is a long sequence of tests, 3, 4, 6, even 7 or 8 tests in some cases, each with a particular aspect of the micro objective I want to evaluate, and not only to evaluate, to consolidate and to check if the learner has understood this application of what I have explained in the micro activity. We have also peer-to-peer exercises which are more open exercises, and therefore can be much more creative, where basically you propose an exercise. This is introduced into a file and is uploaded to the platform. The exercise is corrected or evaluated by the peers, usually by 3 other learners which are in the course, which provide feedback to the person who has submitted it. They're also very good because they create a collaborative environment where you can be more creative here. They are very important for module evaluation, as I will comment now. But also they create a collaborative interaction among the evaluated and the evaluators. Because, well, the evaluator proposes solutions and the evaluators can provide feedback. And each evaluated will also evaluate others. So there is quite an interaction which is very interesting from the collaborative learning point of view. You have today also auto-evaluators, automatic evaluators of programs, simulators, or experiments, which are very much liked by the learners because they provide instant feedback. You pass your program, immediately it tells you if it's correct, in which part it's correct or not, because they act as a test suite where, well, it says which tests have passed, which not, and therefore you know which part of the program are correct and which not. So these are the main possibilities for evaluation. Here in programs, Jupyter networks and other test environments are very useful. And you will have to use probably one of those as evaluations of your activities. You should be aware that you have 2 types of very different evaluations. The micro-evaluations, which evaluate an activity and should be simple and short to perform, and the module evaluations, which evaluate several micro-activities together. they should be more creative and more thorough and invest and need more work to be performed. Because here is where the PBL, the project-based learning, comes in, and where the creativity can be practiced by the learner. Here there is a lot of the motivational work for the learner, so put sufficient effort to design this part. Let's go now to the global view, which is basically our program, our syllabus, and the learning trail, the learning workflow we create for our learners. The syllabus must be designed taking into account that this is a self-learning environment where everything must be explained. The syllabus must contain everything you want your learners to learn. It is also very recommendable that everything evaluated must have been explained, that you don't suppose that there are things that the learner must know by himself without having being explained, and also that everything explained is evaluated in microactivities or modules, because evaluations are also learning activities which can be used to consolidate what you have explained here. Activities focused on creativity, study, info search, bibliographic searches can also exist and should exist because they are very good, especially for motivating. But they must be explicitly planned, and you must give as many hints to the learners to perform them, because if not, only the very talented people will pass the course, and many people will get blocked if you don't provide sufficient hints, and they will leave your course. And it's much better having a course which has a high finalization ratio. Another rule which has been helpful to me for identifying the particular micro-objectives and micro-activities of the syllabus is the scientific method metaphor. In the scientific method, a theory is validated by making experiments with all the implications of the theory, which are usually the interesting use cases. Therefore, in learning, what you have to do is more or less the same, but in the opposite way, and substituting experiments for micro-activities. In learning, every application of a theory you want your learner to understand and use properly must be practiced with micro-activities. Every interesting use case, every interesting prediction, whatever, in order to provide to the learner a proper understanding of all the aspects which you consider are relevant of this theory. Well, let's go to the learning trail, which is the other global element, which is basically the order of micro-objectives or micro-activities, because there is a one-to-one relation between micro-objectives and micro-activities, and this order is what will define your learning trail or your learning workflow, as it is called in other contexts. The definition of this order must imply meaningful learning according to the theory of David Ausubel, which very briefly can be expressed as that for constructing new knowledge, you must make all the parallelisms, metaphors, and also common patterns, explicit them on pre-existing or already acquired knowledge by the learner. Therefore, you must relate always every new element with the old one by providing a micro-example of the old pattern and a micro-example of the new pattern or the new knowledge, by making metaphors, parallelisms, etc., by everything which can help him in relating the new thing with the already known one. You must also use an inductive learning. This is much easier when you go from the particular to the general. You must illustrate always with micro-example the simple cases, start with the vocabulary, all these examples of the particular cases, and then go to the generalizations and abstractions. When the learner has seen with nice micro-examples all the interesting cases of application of theory, it's much easier to understand the general rules of this theory and the general patterns or whatever. And finally, it is very good if you also associate your learning trail or your learning workflow with a project or a problem resolution with a PBL strategy, because this will motivate the learner much more. He will understand much better the content and the benefits of all the effort he is doing for following this course, because he will see how well he can design nice products, what problems can be solved, etc., etc. Well, and that's it. Basically what we have. We have to put it all together into a coherent methodology and apply it. How do we apply all this together? Well, the steps to create a MOOC, we think is going first to the modules, if you have to start from scratch, or if you have to transform one of your courses or one part of your courses. The module must be identified first with just a sentence, a short paragraph, and this will give you the overall structure of your course. We think then it's good going top down and then defining or outlining the evaluations of each of the modules. There doesn't need to be an evaluation in each module. You can leave here no evaluation, here one, the other one also no evaluation, and so this is your choice. You will be the designer of the course and you have to define your strategy, your learning strategy, such that the learner has the most effective process. Once you have this, you have a very good basis for identifying your micro objectives and your micro examples in this order, as we have already explained. And only when you have a clear identifications of all this, we would recommend to define the slides, or to start with the creation of the slides and the micro evaluations. And only when all this is completely settled, then you should go to record your videos. Because if you make a change here and you have already recorded your videos, you will have to re-record lots of things, and this is very nasty. You must be aware that you will need probably several iterations on this process, because you make a first top-down approach, but then you find inconsistencies, micro objectives not covered with a needed later, and so on. Then you have to go bottom-up, solve them top-down again. You find usually more contradictions, and so you have through several iterations in this process. When your structure is correct, you find no more inconsistencies, then you should finish your slides, your micro-evaluations, and then go to the recording of the videos. The recording of the videos is done with usually with the support a professional team at your university for video recording. This is very nice, but it's also very expensive. You need quite a few people supporting you. This is why we do it here with a studio, the Saga recording studio we have designed by ourselves, which is very cheap, agile, and efficient because it needs no support person. I am recording this video here alone without the support of anybody. For the first trials, I would recommend you to use the support of a team because this is very helpful and this will give you many hints. And when you are familiar and you run the thing smoothly, you could go to such a strategy as we use here. Well, this recording studio is very agile and efficient because the lecturer starts and stops the recording. I click on the computer to start, have some time to prepare myself, and then when I see myself in the screen, I start speaking. I have to push on a button here to stop it, but I can do it in a very easy way. The lecturer sees what is being recorded. This is a picture where it shows here Enrique making a recording. He's seeing his composition, exactly what you are seeing now. He's seeing it here. I'm seeing it also, what you will see. So it gives you a good idea of what the learner will see when he watches at your video. These videos in this studio do not need post-production because the systems inserts automatically the bumper videos at the beginning and at the closure of your recording. And the way you produce your videos is by making takes or trials. You can repeat it if these are short videos, not like now. I am using much more than 12 minutes, but this is a special case. Then you can just stop the video and go for the new recording and make 3, 4, 6 takes, and then you take the one with which you are comfortable. So just to summarize, you should do some video recording at the beginning to get familiar of a small part of your MOOC or your content. If possible, do it with a professional team because this will give you many hints. And it's important that you get familiar with the new environment because it's very different from the environment that you have in the classroom. So once you are familiar, it's good that you go and then you start the production of your material. Before recording a video, you must always define or at least outline in a very detailed way what your script will be. You will also it's very recommendable that you only start the recording when the material is finished. Your slides are nearly completely finished, because if not, you will have to do a lot of re-recording, and this is very nasty. And finally, you should be aware that the slides are usually improved during the first recording, because this is when you really have to deliver, we could say, your best discourse, your best story. I usually define very well the micro objectives, the micro activities, a good identification of the topic I want to explain, also the slides in quite a mature way. But I don't try to finish them completely in my office, because I know that when I see the real things which I have to correct is when I do my first recording. And so I leave this last tuning for this part here when I do my first recording. And that's it. I will just present now, before finishing, the results of a survey we have done in our Internet Computing course this year. This course has 300 students. It's a very crowded course. 76 have answered. This is quite a sample, a good sample. And they have answered the following. This year we have offered them, for the first year, the complete course recorded, with all the lectures recorded as micro lectures. Each lecture, each 1 hour lecture, has been split into several micro lectures. We offer them in YouTube playlist more than 200 micro lectures with all the topics of the course. And so they have the possibility either attending to the classroom or watching the videos. We have offered also some of the topics in MOOCs, in 2 MOOCs, only some, not complete. And so we have only explicated it here. So the students have told us that not many attended the classroom regularly, only 35% out of this 65, but many more have watched the videos, over 90%. So it seems that videos have a point for them. And a few of them have followed the MOOCs, and some of them have done nothing of this. Probably they only watch at the slides. Well, the usefulness of the micro-lecture approach has been validated quite positively by them. If you see here, this is above average, the majority is above average. Over 90% of the students have rated it 3 point out of 5, 4 or 5 out of 5. This is quite a good result. If we go to the videos, not just to the split of the information, so in micro topics, the usefulness for of the classroom, of the recorded classroom, of the videos in the YouTube playlist, we made them accessible via Moodle with the standard material. The opinion of the students is even more positive. I mean, over 55% have rated this as 5 over 5. And if we go finally to the screencast we have offered to them, explaining how to solve, how to perform the, we could say, the module evaluations, or we could say the large assignment we have made to them, which is where the creative part is. The assignment they have to deliver during the course, the presential course here at the university, are similar to the module evaluations of the MOOCs, because there exists a very close relation between the activities in the course and the activities in the MOOCs. So this has been extremely liked. If you see 5 over 5 for over 92% of the students. This was screencast where we explained them, quite heavy assignment we put on them. We explained just how to perform some part of it, 40 or 50%, and the rest had to be done by them. So they had like a model, a guide of how to do a proper structuring of the programs they have to do, what was the best practice, also for illustrating, for providing comments, for all this. And well, this has been the most liked element by the students. And it was also a video. Video recording has played a very important role in the course at the university, the presential course, where the classroom has used, as we intended, much more for creative and for active work with the students. And that's it. Just very short conclusions. MOOCs have a huge impact on outreach. As you see from the numbers I gave at the beginning, it's really impacting. They will impact education and universities still quite a lot. This is my feeling. The flipped classroom based on MOOCs or complemented with recorded videos has a huge potential for universities. Our experience is very, very positive and the students have liked it much more. They've recommended also in this test, in this survey, that other courses do the same. The most difficult and costly thing for creating this material was the definition of the sequence of micro-objective, the micro-examples and the project. The project is very important, it's the motivating part. And here, the lecturer, we focus much more on content production of high-quality materials for self-learning. We think this is a very valuable material which will help in the future to increase the impact of the universities in society much more in many aspects. And we think that it is very, very important to go along this way. And finally, I would say that videos are not only useful in MOOCs, and they have a very high productivity and efficiency in learning in general. For example, now in our courses, if we see that there pop up too many questions in a given topic, we see that it has not been properly supported, and then we provide usually quick recorded videos explaining the things which are being asked, which is much more resource effective than really answering the question, because you can record your video in just a couple of minutes, and you can solve many of the questions we would need much more time to be solved. And that's it. Thank you very much. I hope this will have been interesting for you. And please, if you have anything related to it, interesting feedback or whatever, please contact us. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.